trail before.
This way. First of all, welcome to you guys and the Hollywood Fringe today for this post-mort. Very exciting, friends. A little clapping going. A few quick housekeeping. Restrooms, this is kind of a controlled route. We can go here, just be careful. There's a step down, or if you're more comfortable, you can go around for the restrooms. They're both located over here. There are classes going on in the hallways, so just kind of keep your voices down when you are back there. Quick plugs. Meet and greet from the Fringe. This set is continuing for 6 more weeks. Special discount code for Fringers and all. MEET, M-E-E-T. Do check it out. Awesome script, wonderful acting, and a Post-Fringe show, encore show to see. Also, Women is in the midst of rehearsing. The Top of Fringe Best Comedy will be opening with an LA cast at the end of this month. That password for special $10 tickets is Beth Dies in LA. So keep an eye out for that. No spaces. Beth Dies LA, in LA. And does anybody else have any plugs, shows going on? Yo.
We have Feast coming back for Halloween week. So we'll be doing a very gruesome remounting of that show, which had a very successful run actually, and a successful encore experience. So we're doing that, and then Boss will be coming back here at the Asylum.
Yes, very exciting.
So keep looking out for that.
The shows, the encores continue.
They do.
Yep. Anybody else hands up, Dan?
And not a show, but the Alliance of Los Angeles Playwrights is going to have a big fall event on September 27th, which is a Saturday, and we'll be doing one of our producer-director dramatist exchanges, plus a report on the state of theater in LA.
Oh, nice.
So watch the big tube announcements, or go to the website and subscribe, and then you'll get our newsletter in a couple of weeks.
Oh, very cool. All right. Anybody else? Fringe, non-fringe, post, present? All right. Non-fringe.
Right here.
Non-fringe shows.
I'm in the vagina monologue.
Woo!
At the cupcake.
At the cupcake.
At the cupcake.
Is there just one?
I'm in two.
Vagina monologue. Yeah. God, scroll me up a minute. It's at the Cupcake Theater.
What time?
Saturday and Sundays.
So you know French, you forgot how to promote.
From a Yachty to a Yankee back in October.
That's coming back too. That's a French that's coming back.
Fringe coming back. Which one?
From a Yachty to a Yankee.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Congrats. That's great. All right. And Mr. Ben Hill. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Okay. So, first of all, how many people have been to a previous town hall? Anybody hasn't been to a previous town hall? Okay. You will notice that this town hall has a slightly different energy than the pre-Fringe town halls, where you can't stop me from pacing back and forth and basically talking constantly to the point where the camera has trouble following me. This town hall is significantly more, how do we say, conversational and laid back, because we're not all prepping for festivals and shows. So it's a time of reflection, one might say. Let me ask just a quick, who is actually had a show in this year's Fringe? Okay. Who is just coming to learn about the Fringe for the future? Oh, that's great. Okay, well that's great. So you're going to learn about the Fringe in sort of a weird, retrospective sort of way. Because what we're talking about in this town hall is sort of a post-mortem looking back on the Fringe that was in 2014. So it'll be an interesting experience if this is going to be your first one. So the next town hall, which is the one we'll have in January, February 2015, you will notice giant packed house, everyone's very nervous, and lots of energy and sort of things. So this is an interesting introduction. This is sort of like the laid back introduction to the Fringe. Because there's one thing we haven't been called, it's laid back. So thanks to Matthew Quinn and the entire staff of the Theater Asylum for hosting us. And thanks to everyone who's working on the encores in both the venue and production and acting and writing capacity. Like, they've been very, very successful this year. It's been very exciting. A lot of the Fringe staff have had a chance to actually see shows, and that's exciting as well. So you probably noticed that we're being recorded right now.
I'm not.
You're not being recorded.
Everyone else.
That's so weird. Am I actually in the frame right now?
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Okay, cameras are cool.
In fact, if you scooted a little bit further downstage, we could get almost everyone.
Wow, really? I can do it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, even better.
All right, great, swell. Okay, so we are being recorded. And if you have a problem with that, run out very, very quickly of the building because we're not having you sign anything. Okay, after this event, there will be a mixer at the 3 clubs. What's the deal with that?
There'll be some sort of drink special, and they'll be open.
And they'll be open, that's
So
a big thing, and there'll be some sort of drink special.
We hope you will all come because they're opening special for us.
And wristbands are not required for this?
I don't think
event?
so, no.
Yeah, because who else is going to the 3 clubs in Hollywood at 2 p.m.? Okay.
4.
Right, because we're not going now. Unless there's a majority vote. I'll take a simple majority. I do not need a super majority. You can just email me your questions and problems. Okay. A few ideas of how this is going to work. It is a conversation. In the sense, we tried one year with the postmortem that you'd say things and the person running it would just sort of say, okay, and just write it down. But that really doesn't work for me. Because I might have questions for you to know more about it. And I might want to say, I had a problem, there were no bathrooms in the Fringe. Which is sometimes true. What I would say, did you know that there were bathrooms in the Fringe? And how can we better help you know that for next year? I might ask those questions as like a follow-up, and it might turn into more of a conversation sort of thing. Obviously, we're Fringe, we're positive, That doesn't mean that you can't say I had a problem with this and that at all. Actually, we'd love to know if you had a problem with this or that. But we like to keep things constructive, obviously. So like having a problem is fine. Having a problem and suggesting a solution is even better. Because that helps us start to get the blood flowing. So, I have a problem with that. Okay. No idea is bad. Be concise as possible, because obviously we have a lot of people here that need to get through. It's really crowded here. Don't be fooled. They're just not sitting in the front row. It's already, the question's been asked, and already said yes once. Okay, and I think that's good. Now, I would say just please raise your hand. It's not really so much of a big deal with this crowd, but raising your hand is still good, you know. Okay, so the way it's going to work, I'm going to go through various topics. I'll mention the topic. I'll say what was new during 2014, what potentially we already have scheduled to change or to be enhanced in 2015, and then open it up, and you guys can talk and give your opinions and impressions. And no one feel any pressure to talk. It's, as I said, it's laid back. Or if you want to talk, then talk. Okay. The first question, beginning at the beginning, is the registration process. How do we get you into the festival? Something you guys will be hearing a lot about at the first Town Hall of 2015. Obviously we had the largest participation this year ever, with close to 300 shows, 1,500 performances. And that was just terrific. It puts us very squarely, using that metric, as the largest Fringe festival in the United States. Other festivals do say they're the largest based on ticket sales or other metrics, but based on purely number of shows, we have the largest participant base in the United States and one of the largest in the entire world. So that's good. David Svengali, everyone. That's why we're applauding. Welcome. How you doing? We hosted 3 town halls to get us started. We had 2 workshops. Town halls are big. We tell you a lot of information, and we have 5 seconds for questions. And then workshops are more all about the questions, and you ask a panel of Fringe luminaries, your questions. So yeah, this is your turn. One thing we want to change next year is make the process even more clear, because I know there was some confusion regarding the fact that you add your show, you book your venue submits an offer, you accept the offer, and then you move forward. Now there's only because that's basically our model of the independent venue, there's only so many things we can do to make that clear. But like the one thing we're going to do this year, try to make it a little clearer, is have a very distinct workflow. You know where you are exactly in the workflow on the site and what your status is. Every year we play around with the idea of, I'm interested in people's thoughts on this, of allowing you to register before booking a venue.
People do it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you like right now, you literally need a venue to say good to go before you're registered. And the reason we do that is so that people don't register and then find out at the last minute they actually don't have a venue and suddenly start panicking.
That might be a good idea because my problem wasn't on your end. My problem was, especially newer venues, they were like, oh, we'll call you back. And they didn't respond. And honestly, if Monica Morin didn't come to me, the ones that I chose in front hadn't gotten back to me till like a month later.
Wow, okay.
So that might be a good idea.
There's the risk in that, and let me see if you follow the.
There is a risk.
The risk is that
that's why
you think that you're done.
Right.
If we let you register with us, and then the first, the deadline comes around, and we're like, hey, you don't have a venue. They're like, I need a venue, which is the problem.
See, I'm sorry, I was battling the clock, thinking I'm running out of time slots.
Right.
Every day that I wait, I'm running out of time slots.
Right. Yes, sir.
Yeah, either way, you'll decide which. The one thing, and I'm glad to hear that you're going to make it a little clearer. The problem that I had, I had directed a show before in the Fringe, which I think it was in, but this was the first time producing it, and it said so good, register for the Fringe in 3 easy steps.
Right.
And the steps were easy, but there were 5 of them.
Right. Okay.
And and the thing is that without knowing that there were those 2, I was going to, and it was only when I, got in touch and the thing is, whoever got back to me said, well, we didn't want to confuse people by putting in too many steps.
Right.
And I found myself going, but if you have to do the steps.
Right.
So just to make it clear, however many steps there are,
right.
just to make sure they're there.
Yep.
So
Yeah, and the steps, so the 3 easy steps that we've talked about in the past are you add a project, book a venue, register for the Fringe. But in reality, the steps you need to go through
getting the venue to respond,
right.
And you agreeing to it.
Applying to the venue, and then having the venue respond back with an affirmative, and then you register.
And I say the steps all were easy to do,
right?
But it was confusing because you didn't know that you had that intermediate thing.
The booking process, right. So I mean, that I think we can do a better job of making clear. Yeah. And actually, recent thing we've added to the website that will be in the Fringe for next year is it's like it's not just add a project and you go straight to your project page and you're good. It's like step 1, I'm in step 1. Step 2, I'm in step 2. Step 3, I'm in step 3. So it's like very clear where you are. You can go back and edit your stuff in any time, and then we'll let you know when it's actually complete. It's does anybody have any suggestions on how to make the venue booking process easier? Matt?
Well, to kind of Dan's point with the 5 steps, and I know this has been something every year we kind of are always talking about. I think, to the 5 steps, I saw, with all the shows we had, I did see various levels of confusion in different ways. Some people got confused by, did you first create a user? That's the real first step. And some people thought that was it. And then, no, you do a user and then you create a project. Okay, I've got a project. Am I registered now? No.
Right.
You have to make a deal with us.
Right.
So the mechanism is there for the venues to make the deal in response, but in reality, the venues are doing it through email and phone calls and operating that differently. So the mechanism isn't really being used as it's set up. And the confusion along the line of, well, am I registered now? Am I registered now? I had one gentleman who thought he had registered, showed up the day by the end, registered like months ago, showed up at the venue the end day of registration, and thought that's when he was going to get the venue.
Okay.
And we made it work and got it going, but he was utterly confused. So along the line, there was and I think the idea you're suggesting is great. Here you are.
Yeah.
But to Dan's point too, and we actually put it up for the asylum page to be clear, there are these 5 steps.
Right.
But I think, and maybe after our venue meeting we should all get together, I think to your point that clearing up the venue's project stage is the most confusing.
Right.
It's the most important in a lot of ways because it's complicated.
Right.
It's just paying money and done.
Right.
So I think if we can kind of pull our heads and maybe other comments from participants from kind of their point of view of what they're looking, or even run it by them after discussing it. Because we talk about, like Monica and I, how can we make that? Because it is confusing for us too.
I know, when we first started, I remember I built all sorts of crazy stuff that would actually allow participants to book themselves on a venue's open schedule. Right. And I figured that wouldn't work. I built all the framework to get it done. But it's sort of a cool idea, right?
It was cool, totally.
And actually, I built literally like a venue slot shopping cart where you can go and say, give me an 8 p.m. and a 7 p.m. and a 6 p.m. Okay, check out.
And check out.
Yeah.
There's an approval period, which is kind of like the venue could still, but yeah, it would be crazy.
Right. I mean, because like the venues that are in here are obviously exceptions, but there are some venues that do wait for a long time to get back to towards the end of the process, and that's been a problem we see on support every year. It's like, my venues aren't getting back to me, what the hell do I do? And usually we say, these venues will get back to you. You can contact these venues, and I know we'll get back to you really, really soon. So like, what do you do about that, though? Obviously, we don't control these people.
Well, one thing I know, Mike, what you meant to say?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, well, to one point of that, and we had one this year a bit, is that new venue meeting.
Yep.
And I think maybe after the old venues meet and we come up, we try to be a little standard procedures and stuff like that, be on the same page. They come to that and we kind of indoctrinate them.
Right.
And then and I know Monica's been really pushing this too, the kind of having a panel discussion for venues early on, so that conversation is happening in a public forum like this. And you mentioned that was a great idea, the accreditation concept.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I forgot about it.
Yeah, that's a good one. You guys kind of send people out to look at venues and say, okay, you guys are set up for Fringe. You guys, here's what you need, here's what you should expect, and you guys are set for that. And I think for the new venues, that would be, and old venues too, we've got, stuff we could work on.
I think that's actually a really good idea. It's like, so I mentioned that we had the 3 town halls and the 2 workshops, and we had a separate one where you can come and ask venues questions.
Yeah. Early on, like
Early
way
on.
before.
Early on.
And
Yeah.
to the registration thing, I think you can have the registration. It would be great if you could start registration as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Venues we're already getting calls.
Right.
I got one before Fringe was over.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get back to
Right, yeah. So they know that, but I do think there is a risk of them renting it unless you have a really cool refund policy.
Right.
Why risk it? But they should know, because some people are like, I have to register. They should know, don't worry, get the venue.
Right.
Then you can register at a heartbeat.
Right.
And you can go backwards.
Yes.
Just commenting on the changing of the website, which
Yes.
I think is great to be
Yes.
able to take them through the stats.
Yep.
But I have a question because now, even though I look at it all the time, when you go on, does it say how to register?
Yeah, a couple
Or
places.
Is that the verbiage?
Yeah.
I honestly would suggest that perhaps register is not used. At
The word
beginning.
register?
That
Yeah.
because I think it becomes a little confusing.
Right.
I think that if it was how to participate,
Right.
and then one of the steps is how to register.
Oh, that's a good
So
idea.
that
That's
then
really
they're setting up their online profile, then they do their project, then they find their venue, the venue sends them a deal, then they register.
Yeah.
Right.
Because only because the numerous times that people came into me and I said, have you, okay, so we're gonna do this, we'll set you up and then we'll get you registered. And they're like, oh, we're already registered.
Right.
Do you see what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I just think really, it's like semantics.
Right.
It's like what it
Yeah.
says in our heads. So maybe that might be a way.
Like a status bar or something like that.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what we're talking about. Though,
Yeah.
adding a status bar
Pie
type
chart
of
or
thing.
something.
Yeah.
Like a project management step.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still complicated even with the workflow steps because to make it clear. First of all, I'm thinking about changing the word deal and change that to booking to make that a little clearer.
That's good.
Right. So because remember, for those of you who've been around for a while, the first word we used in 2010 was offer. And then we changed offer to deal, and now I'm thinking we changed deal to booking. So it's clear. Do you have your
That's good.
booking?
That's
Right.
Yes.
Because like the way that I imagined working it is it's like the first step is you add your project information. Hi guys, which is like your base project information. The second step is you can like tag your show and help build it out. The third step is it gives you a list of venues and sort of an easy to look at. Here's the existing venues. And then you can click one button to say apply, 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 apply. So you know that you're applying to the venues. You haven't been, and then make it very clear saying this application is subject to acceptance and rent. Because that's another thing we get all the time. So it only costs $250, right? Wow, what a deal. It's like, no, you also need to pay your rent 99% of the time. So making that clear too. And I think using a workflow process and on your project a big, you're not done yet, like right there so you can see it, which we still have, it's just to make it more pronounced. We've always had next step, next step, next step, but to make it like as clear as possible to clarify that. I mean, in the end, it's always going to be support cases and people, because there's always going to be people who.
Sure.
I mean, to be honest, I wonder if we should just make visible the thing that we see that just says project is not registered for.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Because
like
when we're looking at your projects before they are registered, it just says right at the top by your title, project is not registered for
Yeah.
HFF 14 or project is registered. So even one sentence like that just makes it like, oh, why am I not registered? I should
Right.
dig deeper.
Right. Questions, contact.
Yeah, and I think that when they go, because you do, when they have the step, you explain what they need to do, right?
Right.
You go to the venue, you do this.
Yeah.
I think in that case, the act of applying to a venue, I think sometimes says, oh, we've applied, so we're good.
Right.
Right, and that they need to understand that if you don't hear back,
Right.
call.
Which-
If you don't hear, I think it's a proactive thing that they need to maybe be a little bit more proactive in reaching the venues. You never know
Right.
what's going on, and
Right.
Squeaky wheel theory and
Right.
all of that. It does help.
I was thinking of actually making it so much that when you apply, like a box comes up and says application is not confirmation of booking. You still need to work.
Yeah.
Please wait to hear from your venue.
Please wait to hear from
There's people that applied to 3 clubs, and I call them like that day,
Right.
and they never get back to me
Yeah.
for like a month.
Right.
And they'd be like, oh, we applied a month ago. Yeah, but you never talked to me, and
Right.
So
And so
like,
it's
To make it very clear, application does not guarantee a booking.
yeah,
Yeah.
Because I got the impression that that participants would think that when they sent in the application, it said we want 5 shows and we want them to be this long and whatever, that we would it would immediately go onto some kind of calendar and they were done. So I think that clarity might help.
You know what doesn't help? That every other fringe in the country works that way.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, every other, we use what I would call a European model of fringe in the sense that it's based on the original, that all the venues, as you know, all the venues are not run by the Fringe Festival. Almost every other fringe festival in the United States and Canada, North America, is you pay one sort of monolithic fee and then they book you into your places. All the prices are exactly the same for everything. Every fringe show is exactly the same length, and that's how other fringes work. So if you've done other fringes, this is what you're used to. You're used to this sort of like one step. Obviously, we chose not to do that because we like the Edinburgh European model, Australian European model more. So yeah, that works against us as well. Any other thoughts about the registration process and making that clear? Any other suggestions, thoughts? Yes.
I think it's, it may not be directly with the registration, but during that process of gathering information in the beginning, and you probably already gather it, some of it. So the showing of that, the marking of where specific cities where people are from and their location, so shows can be viewed as national, local, and international. And then if shows have if they're doing fringes, if shows are like fringing in other fringes,
Right.
there's some checkbox so that maybe there could be access for these guys to see who else is going to the New York Fringe, who else is going to. A lot of them they find out during the fringe, like this socializing, but if they could know beforehand, I think that also just in terms of everybody
You mean publicize other Fringe festivals?
I think it'd be cool, like Miracle on 34th Street, like show the other guys.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, actually, one thing I'm doing with, as some of you know, the Fringe framework that I'm building is being used by other festivals as well, which is cool because we learn what other festivals need, and it's interesting. We steal ideas from them. But like, I'm adding a dynamic question-answer system right now, so you can build out sort of these unique questions to the project form. So we can start including this sort of stuff. On my list already is like, we already asked what country you're from, like asking what state you're from. So we will be able to separate the nationals from the locals. Yeah. Of course, we don't need a national award, right? Because I mean, a national show won the entire Fringe Festival.
Well, and it's got the international. I don't know if you go as well. It's also like with the international, it could be part of the process of defining what really is an international show. Because I know you go through that every year. Like,
yes.
What really? Because I'm always surprised. I think like, oh, I think there's 3 shows, and then there's like 15 that were available for it.
Right.
And if there was an icon or something, because I think the internationals, and yes, even the nationals sometimes need that little extra push.
Our definition of international is that you have a multicolored passport.
So it's the passport.
The producer has a multicolored passport. They could be living in the United States, but they have like passport that isn't blue. Is basically international. But yeah, I mean, it is easy to trick because you can have like one member of the cast who's English and
That's right.
So it hasn't been abused thus far, to the best of my knowledge. We love the rule to be you need to cross a border to participate. Your entire company does, but that would significantly limit the amount of international shows that would be able to get the award because of the American laws regarding working in other countries and visas, which we have like one of the more unfriendly in the world. I know this because the first year I tried to actually get visas for all our international people. Pile of paperwork this high, all denied. Like by rote. It was like no. I mean, after they've dumped $250 in application fees to get them, all denied. After I spent countless hours on this federal paperwork and stress. And then one of our internationals, who was actually in the asylum and several other venues the first year, discovered this. It's not a loophole; it's a rule that if you come to the country, this is for athletes and artists. If you come to the country to participate in a competition, then you may come in on a tourist visa. You may not be reimbursed. You may not earn money in the United States, but you may be reimbursed for your travel expenses. So as a result, venues can reimburse them. They can't pay them out of their box office, but they can reimburse them their travel expenses, which is a way for them to basically break even in their participation in the Hollywood Fringe. But like until the federal government changes the laws on visiting artists, it's going to be extremely hard to have a large percentage of the festival be an international show. Okay. Here's what I got so far. We're going to visit this venue accreditation concept, which is something we might do for next year. It's going to take a bit of work and planning, which is the thought that we have like a 10-point check, like a Jiffy Lube check that we send someone from the Fringe staff to do on every venue. And you have an initial visit, then you have a return visit. So it's like the initial visit is like, it's like a food inspector, right? It's like, you need this, and this, and this. Then they come back a month later and they check this, and then there's this. Then we can say accredited Fringe venue, like they have their act together sort of thing. So when participants are booking, they can say, oh, okay, well I have a certain amount of confidence this is an accredited venue versus a non-accredited venue. It gets sort of weird because it's putting us in a position to cast judgment over venues, and that would be my only.
It's being helpful, giving advice.
Well, in the end, it is giving advice because we're saying because a lot of venues are like we don't know what to expect. Like I know there's a situation this year when a lot of participants would show up for tech and they would just find a bunch of lights sort of sitting on the stage. And they're like, what the hell are we supposed to do with these? So like it removes issues like that. Okay, adding a venue panel to complement an early venue panel to complement the town halls. And then the workshops. Changing the language from how to register to how to participate. I think we have the word participate scattered all over the place, but making it clear. make it very clear, hi, if you are not registered, so you know that there's still work to do. The whole workflow concept that we discussed and making that as clear as possible. Listing the state that you're from, as well as the country. Posing customized questions like, are you participating in other Fringe festivals? And then sort of digging into the question of what is an international. Anything else on registration? Okay. Festival marketing, making people aware. This is the work that we do. Making people aware of the festival itself. So complementing what we've always done, which have been online ads, which have increasingly been Facebook driven, because who needs other online ads? Radio spots on National Public Radio affiliates, print ads in various outlets, including our LA Weekly program, which is like a sublet, a full page for participants, and venue signs, which we've done for a while. We complemented that with how many billboards in total, Con? 5 billboards, including one in Hollywood, which is the big win. And then pole signs. Pole signs are the signs on lights, lamps, like up and down. Okay, so we had some this year, specifically in the Sunset Junction area, the Vine area, and the Cahuenga, the specific name for that part of Cahuenga, the Cahuenga Pass, not Cahuenga Pass, but it's like corridor, the Cahuenga corridor, where all those restaurants are. Next year, we're gonna have 3 times as many.
Wow.
3 times as many.
110.
Yeah, we have 100 in total. And we already had them printed this year. Don't ask. I don't even want to talk about it. But we've had them printed to the beginning, so they'll look exactly the same. The nice thing about the way we're doing this is that you'll notice the specific dates are not on the pole signs. It just says June, meaning we can build an inventory of them because they're expensive. We can build an inventory of them year over year over year over year. So we have a benefit that LACMA doesn't have. Not that LACMA is short of money. Is that LACMA can produce, 1,000 of these that say come to our new Renoir exhibit, and they basically become artifacts. With us, we can build up a stockpile of them, keep using them, and like in 2 years when we want to make more, then we can do new branding, new signs, and sort of to complement our existing signs. So we try to make them as generic as possible, and the storage and cleaning of them is included in the whole package that we get. So they're currently being cleaned and stored so that they'll still look good next year, hopefully. We also had Fringe TV change this year. We did it in smaller chunks rather than big chunks. We included individual videos for each of the participants, whereas last year they were all cut into sort of like participant saying one thing after another thing after another thing. So that the amount of videos that we put out went up like 20, 30 times over the previous year. But they were shorter. They were more like internet sized, one might say. They were more, you can't say MTV generation anymore, right? Because we're getting old. It's like, I don't even know.
American Bandstand.
Attention span is really like this, right? So like putting them at. So what we're looking at here, as far as your feedback, is thoughts on what you feel worked, ideas for new ways for us to market the Fringe to a broader audience and expand the audience, which obviously expands your audiences. So thoughts? Yes, hi.
Hi, my name's Monique. I was in a play last year in West Hollywood, which would have been awesome for the Fringe Festival, but the director/theater owner said that it's like right outside the border of Hollywood. Are you at all thinking about at some point including all those West Hollywood little venues?
Here's the thing. Of course, we can consider it. And like when we first started planning the Fringe, the geography question was a big question, because we actually were thinking of including North Hollywood. That was when we first started. And it was going to be the Metro Fringe. You can get on a metro and go back and forth. And a lot of people was like, there's a metro in LA? What is this thing where we were back and forth? And actually it was funny, because we were all gung-ho about it. We were like, we're going to do this, da-da-da. There was also talk about a citywide Fringe and the whole thing. But it's funny because ever since we made this very tough decision, a lot of people have said like that was the best decision you made, because as you make it bigger, you dilute that sense of place and community. Because even though it's already a square mile in size, and that's pretty big, a lot of the venues are sort of in this neighborhood, and the benefit of that is they can all come to sort of the one place. They see each other walking all the time and whatnot. So like we have been slowly increasing the size of it. The advice that we actually got from our board was increase the size when you have run out of space. Like when it's to the point when the existing venues within the existing space are like, we got to start turning people away. We haven't hit that point. Every year we think we're going to hit that point. Every year we think we're going to run out of venue space. We stress and stress about running out of venue space. Venue space hasn't been a problem though. Like, and as much as like, well, obviously want to help all the venues in Los Angeles, like our first core sort of concern are the artists working in Los Angeles. A lot of the venues are also artists and producers as well, so they can sympathize. As we add more venues and stretch over more space, we're actually doing the artists a disservice because we're making audience run all over the entire city to go. And one of the things that people love about this Fringe is this, as opposed to other festivals, is this tight-knit community. You see people over and over again. You know people over and over again. So like everyone here's heard this thing before. It's a very good question. The answer is yes, we will consider it, absolutely. But I think we need to reach a certain level when we're like, we are just out of space here, and then we'll start increasing the size. As much as we like to participate in it, yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as on my ticket buying nights when we were dark and I went to see other shows, I booked. This is my first Fringe, so I booked a ticket in a space down off Mimosa, not realizing where it was.
Yep.
And I went, oh man, I gotta move the car, and then it became like, wow, that's too far.
Yep.
It's not.
Which brings up sort of a question of like, even amongst the venues that we have, how do we make it even more tight knit? How do we like, what transportation options can we provide, stuff
That's
like
tough.
that?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I know Svengali always has opinions on this. You want the shuttle.
Well, I want a shuttle. I have like 2 shuttles just going in a loop somehow.
Right.
And
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, one thing which, because we also had several older actors in our show, and the idea of that there was no parking arrangements. In other words, what if it's at all possible to make some arrangement with some garage or some lot or whatever that for $5 or even $10 or whatever, but in other words that there's some place that people know that they can go for parking.
Right.
Because what happened with these, because there were a couple of people in their 70s who literally had to come a couple of hours before to make sure that they would be able to park somewhere that they could walk to the theater.
Right. I know Complex had a parking arrangement this year.
Yeah, that was great.
That was
It
good.
was really
With-
Yeah, it was only the Friday, Saturday,
Right.
Sunday, and at night.
Right.
They didn't really. It was their choice whether they could come in early. It's kind of a strange relationship
Right.
with this group. But
This is Quixote.
yeah, and it's not them. It's that they sublet it to the valet service.
Okay.
So the valet service sets their hours and so on and so forth. So, that we might ask them to come and be there at 7 o'clock for 8 o'clock shows, and they might decide that they don't want to.
Right.
So that's happened, and that happened during Fringe. Yeah, so it's one of those things that I think also the media district, and we're all talking about ways Con knows of fixing the parking situation in Hollywood somehow. There's plenty of empty space, there's plenty of parking lots.
Yes.
It's just trying to get access.
For-
So I don't think that that's impossible.
Right.
Yeah.
For those Fringe historians out there, 2 years ago, this is why Con and Dave were just snickering. We ran a parking lot. We actually ran a parking lot thinking, how could this be a bad business idea? We're running a parking lot in Los Angeles. I mean, they're just sharing money hand over fist. it turns out
It's
that
expensive.
the space is extremely expensive to rent. So that was the year that the festival actually lost money as a result of mostly our parking debacle. It's like, don't get into businesses you don't understand. That's what we learned out of that. But what we do understand now about parking in Hollywood is that on Sunday through Thursday, parking isn't so much of a problem. So much so that people will park in front of your parking lot, look at you, snicker, and walk away, which happened a lot. Like, we're standing for the parking lot, we're like, we have a parking lot, like, okay, and they walk away. But then on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, it's never enough. So it's like we were pushing people away on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and we were begging people to come in every other day of the week. So it's like that. I think that if the compromise would be if all the venues and the Fringe could somehow get together and figure out local parking places to map them out, to say in the guide and on the app maybe, here's where you can park. Right. You can go to a venue by venue and see this venue, here's the parking lots, and this venue, here's the parking lots. And then preferably have a deal with the parking lots in question that if you say the word Fringe, then you get a special rate. It's difficult.
I don't know, Monica, does he know the deal that you put together with that? We all contributed a little bit and we all had that parking.
Yeah.
All the
everybody-
participants?
Yeah.
Oh,
If their shows are after 7.
interesting.
Because all of the parking money goes to the valet.
Right,
So it was just a straight rental for us.
right.
And so to help cover the cost, we passed it on to participants, $5 a show after 7 on a Friday or Saturday.
Now, was that like, what if, could they refuse? Could they say, no, I don't want to pay the extra $5?
No.
Okay, that's a question. So it's a premium.
Honestly, it made life so much easier. My
Sure.
actors had a place to park every night on those nights. It was so much easier.
That's great.
And we just, we ended up, I think it was exactly on, we just broke even. We
That's
paid
great.
for the parking with the $5 per show.
Oh, that's great. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
This is not about parking, it's on the last point.
Sure.
I understand the need to keep it like in a Miracle Mile type situation, but wouldn't it be great, to try to make some sort of common cause with people in places where they don't get the Fringe?
Yeah.
Like 1 or 2 theaters in East LA, in Inglewood, in the Valley,
Right.
the West Valley, Canoga Park.
Right.
I know has, a little arts district.
Right.
And don't spread it out crazy, because I understand the dynamic of all that. But I think it would be nice to at least try to spread it out a little bit, into places that would love to be part of a Fringe.
We thought about that before, actually, like years ago. We thought about this idea of having like the outer Fringe or something like that, and categorizing it differently. Beyond the Fringe, like Fringe around town, something like that. It's an interesting thought that we can definitely bring up with the board again to discuss, because that has been discussed before. Who had their hand up first? Well, Quinn still has his hand up, so yes.
I was just going to do a side comment to that. One thing with that I've seen over the course of the Fringe are groups utilizing the Fringe, who are in other areas, utilizing the Fringe to come to a new area and kind of tap into that.
Right.
And like Zombie Joe, who has his own space in North Hollywood, did that down here.
Sacred
Antius
Fools.
Jr. came in here, Sacred Fools, Theater Unleashed has their space in North Hollywood.
Right.
So it's kind of like, I appreciate the satellite, but again, I think it's the community that's been here, that's formed here, that people are like, I mean, that's the magic of the Hollywood Fringe versus right here in most other fringes.
And at least from what Theater Unleashed has experienced is that we pick up audiences here that follow us to North Hollywood, or artists that then follow us to North Hollywood. So there's definitely already that exchange, I think, and I don't know if people would necessarily come out to something in another venue just because it has Fringe on it.
Right.
Maybe, but it certainly works a little bit, but just in a different way, I guess.
We had a board member our first year he's a burner. When he first told me that, I didn't know what it was. I was like, it's sort of private information. I've since become cool and now know what that word means. It's Burning Man, for those who know. He says what you need in a festival is a sense of place. And that's the thing that especially where LA doesn't really have a sense of place, right? You say LA, and that means 1,000 different things to 1,000 different people, and they think of the communities they're in. So like the reason we made the decisions that we did was based on this advice to create this sense of place and to be able to, as much as even we can in this small area, blanket it. Festivals like Perth, hi, come in, have a seat, how you doing? Festivals like Perth, tiny, it's like the most isolated town in the world, it's in Australia, can literally make the entire town Fringe festival while it's happening, and it's awesome. We have a lot of advantages in Los Angeles. That is not one that we have. One of the most expensive markets in the world, one of the most spread out markets in the world. So what can we do? The only thing we can do is carve out this little area and says, here is where it is. And as you said, like a lot of companies, venues, other producers that have, I mean, a lot of obviously opinions and things to say about us not expanding larger, and I understand the position. A lot of them have since come back. Christian Levantino is actually one of the most outspoken people about us not being in NoHo. But since, he's come back, won awards, given awards, one of the biggest Fringe supporters, and he's picked up all sorts of audience here as a result. So that's nice.
It's part of that Fringe effect that we've talked about for years, where, where a person comes to see a show and then realizes the festival, this greater festival, and then goes to other shows and becomes fans of that. So our community relies on each other. So it's not theaters or theater companies all onto themselves, but this is where they can branch out and get audience from other companies, and everyone wins. So that, you know, the idea of doing the Beyond the Fringe has definitely been something we talk about every year at the board meetings. But I think having that sense of community that Ben talks about, and I think that everyone who's been to our Fringe and has gone to other Fringes talks about it, is like, wow, Hollywood Fringe is definitely onto themselves for that sense
community.
Absolutely.
The issue with Beyond the Fringe, you always hit too, is it puts us in a position to pick winners and losers. So we'll just piss off more people, because we'll say like, this venue in North Hollywood, this venue in Santa Monica, this venue in Culver City, but not you. And then as a result, all the other venues are like, why not? We're like, no, of course we're pushovers. We'll be like, oh, all right, you too. And you too. Oh, yeah, it's fine. It's literally the only time the Fringe ever says no, which is, we've set it up this way. The only time we say no is when a venue in Santa Monica says we want to be a part of the Fringe. And that's why we hate this subject. Is because everything we can say yes. We want to do a show about penguins mating in Spain. Like, go for it. Like, go crazy. But this is the only time we actually have to say no, which we hate. It's the only disapprove button we have on the site. Is to venues out of the way, which is something we don't like. But we're always looking for interesting ideas. And like, ideally, what I'd like to happen is for what is now the encores to expand to the rest of the city. So
and that's actually become our sort of stock answer when we do have, you know, venues that are not in the zone. We get them in touch with Matt and the other encore producers, because there's no reason not to do that.
Like benefit, like send scouts to the Fringe, other venues out there. Send scouts to the Fringe, find shows, approach them and say, I see this big audience you have. I have a venue in West Hollywood or in Santa Monica or Culver City or North Hollywood, Canoga Park, and say like come to my venue, and you'll have a run after the Fringe, and take this sort of energy and excitement you have with you, which is really like the best situation across all worlds, because every venue in the city can benefit from the Fringe. I know it's going to take a few more years probably until they catch on, and CTG has their one Fringe encore show. Yeah. For all the CTG staff watching right now. Yes.
So just from what you were talking about, that of having people come in and scout the Fringe, maybe one way to promote the Fringe itself is by approaching venues around and saying, why don't you preview your next show at the Fringe in June?
Absolutely. And you know, that's what we want people to do. We really want people to do just what you're saying.
But make it an actual, you know, thing to them.
Like a program.
If you have a show that's going to be opening in July or August or September, do it first at the Hollywood Fringe and get the word spread.
We become like the Hartford, you know, for to their Broadway. Yes.
I had people come from the Geffen.
From the Geffen.
And it turned out later we found, coincidentally, one of the cast members was friends with the lit agent, but that's not why it happened. It happened because I was the only one out of 300 shows that mailed them anything.
Wow, really?
And they said that. They said they told the cast member, tell Tom for 2 weeks he's been to talk to this office because he's the only one that went out of his way to mail anything. And I went further. I sent out 50 to 100 mailings to all the theater companies that I could find and people that I had submitted to in the past, and I ended up getting commissioned to write a show because they came on the very last day, right before the festival, and it was North by South Los Angeles Theater Company.
That's great.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things we don't tell participants to do who are new playwrights, who have new plays, is to mail lit agents in other larger, more established theaters that can, you know, afford lit agents. And like invite them to come see your Fringe show. But I think that's a really good idea. I think we should encourage more people to do that. So his hand go up first.
Yeah, my name's Dennis. I have been able to observe the Fringe from another vantage point, strictly as a patron. In Orlando, when their Fringe festival was spread out all over the town in storefronts, closed theaters, dark nights. Over the years, it has evolved into a machine. It is in a central location that is comprised of 4 major theaters down there.
They used to have a color, right?
Yeah, you go in the green venue,
right.
The blue venue, the brown venue, depending on the length of your show and the size of audience you're hoping to attract. And it is a lottery. But they also have this huge quad, and it's basically a carnival through the whole, the whole deal.
Yep.
Every city that has a Fringe has to find its own identity based on the layout, the attractions, the transportation, parking.
Yes.
The time to get from one venue to another. But I found that they developed a culture. The artists that you see showing up periodically developed a culture. Rob G is good friends with Chase Padgett, who's good friends with Paul Strickland, and they know who's going to which Fringe. And the patrons have been collecting the Fringe buttons for 20 years, and they show off to each other, and it's just a phenomenal, family of artists and patrons who, support. Going to the outer Fringes, I couldn't tell you how to do that, or if it would be viable, but the whole point is to get as many people to see as much as they can during the period that you're running your Fringe.
Like show.
Yeah.
And that's how we do it when we go to other festivals as well. We see like 4 or 5 shows in a row, and preferably walk between them, which is Edinburgh started all that, right?
Yeah.
Orlando is a great festival. I think it is the oldest festival,
In
still
the
running
United
festival in the United
States.
States.
Yeah.
It is a CAF festival, Canadian Association of Fringe Festivals,
Yeah.
which for those of you who don't know, to be a CAF festival, they actually in Canada trademarked the word Fringe Festival, something you really can't do in this country, but you trademark the word Fringe Festival, and to be a Fringe, you need to have certain rules, which is absolute open access, on and on and on. We actually wouldn't qualify, and ironically, neither would Edinburgh or Adelaide, because technically, the venues can keep a peace, like if they wanted to. To be a CAF Fringe, you need to guarantee that 100% of the money goes back to the artist. Now, in actual truth, 99% of the Hollywood Fringe money goes back to the artist, but sometimes it goes back to the venue. And you know what? I don't have a problem with that, especially because it normally means that they get the rent for smaller because they have this deal, which is a problem that I have with the CAF model, is that sometimes doing a lot like a co-pro with the venue works for you. And I know that most of the encores works on a co-pro basis, and I think the producers appreciate that quite a lot. But Orlando's a fantastic Fringe, and one day I'm going to make it down there.
They charge more for the button.
Yep.
And they are strict. If you do not have your button, you can have tickets to 100 shows.
Yep.
But you're not going to get in.
Right. Yep.
And the money from that button goes back to the theaters.
Yep.
It's like a mutual support thing. The button is a one-time thing. If it costs you $10 or $15 for the button,
Right.
now you've got your button.
Which is one thing we can't do. Like, it's interesting, when we introduced the button in 2011, it was actually a vet of the Orlando Fringe, who's on our board right now, who suggested we incorporate a button. What we can't do is saying you cannot walk through the doors of the complex without a button, because we don't run the complex. As opposed to Orlando Fringe that rents all of them and runs all of them, which is the way most of the fringes in this country work. But we took the Edinburgh model where the venues are their own business, basically, and the participants are their own business, and we're our own business, and there's a division of power and whatnot, but a separation of power between them. But so we came up with this concept of, although the buttons are not required to Fringe, they will give you $1 off all tickets that you buy through the Fringe. They will get you cheaper beer, they'll give you that warm feeling of community, that sort of stuff. So we still wanted to introduce the buttons, but we couldn't impose the sanction.
So in essence, is everybody in association?
Like we are in essence in association.
So could
yeah.
the theaters collectively, as part of this participatory association, say, yeah, they need the button to come in?
Haha, they could.
But the discount on the ticket with the button was, I thought that's more
$1.
valuable.
Yeah.
I don't understand the point of it really, but.
The point of it is ultimately the Fringe Festival gets more money. Because everybody has the button. Like Capitol Fringe is a good example.
I gotcha.
They charge, I think, $10, $15 a button. Most of their revenue comes from the button. Because everybody needs a button. So they use the button like we use ticketing fees, because they don't have their own ticketing system. We do. So all those ticketing fees, when everyone has a ticket, $1 of that goes back to the Fringe Festival. Most of the time, $1 of that's going back to brown paper tickets or ovation tickets or something like that. With us, that's how we make money on tickets. The way Capitol Fringe and Orlando Fringe makes money on tickets, because both of them give 100% back to them as well, is through the button. Like that's their premium, and that's how they make money. So it's a different model. Yeah.
Similarly, in San Diego, because Theater Unleashed took both of our shows
Yep.
to San Diego this year, and it was an interesting experience. But they have a Fringe tag, which is like a little dog tag thing, same thing as the button.
Right.
But their biggest difference there that we were all kind of excited about was their button gets every participant into every single show for free.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and I was a little confused about that with them just because we didn't have to pay for those.
Right.
They just handed them out to the participants, and then you also get into all the shows for free. So we're like, well, how are you making money?
Right.
But anyone who outside of the participants had to buy it. And
Right.
it didn't matter, same thing. Didn't matter if they had tickets. You don't have this tag, you don't get in.
Right.
So they were definitely making a lot of, that's where their revenue is coming from. But
Yep.
at least as a show that was a bit of a commuter show, because we only did our shows on the weekends, it was nice to be like, well, we're paying for housing down there and driving down there or whatever, but we can see as many shows as we want for free. So that was really nice, and I felt like, I don't know if it would work, but this year I felt like, and other producers too let me know, I felt like there was a lot of sort of begging for audiences this year, which was different than from any other year that we had been here. I know like Lost Moon ended up doing all pay what you want tickets, and we ended up doing pay what you want tickets for participants and things like that. So I'm just wondering like what other producers felt this year about getting audiences. It just felt very, very different to me, and I was hearing a lot from people like, well, I want to see like 10 shows, but I can't pay $10 to $15 a show for the 10 shows I want to see, which I understand.
One of the things that like we give you the flexibility, right, to set your own price for participants, because we don't want to say all participants are free, because like we have 1,500 participants. Like when you add them all up, technically a participant could just take over your theater and you don't make a dime from that show.
Absolutely, and and I think that they set their ticket prices too. All tickets were $10.
Right.
Like you didn't have any other options.
Yep.
So I'm not saying that's the best.
They have an
option. I'm just
Orlando
saying it's
model,
different.
right? They basically
Yeah.
have the same model as Orlando does, or very, very close to what Orlando does in that sense. But like, it's different. Like, we treat all of the producers like independent producers. We treat all the venues like independent operators and businesses, and that's sort of like what this Fringe is about. So when it comes to like telling you how to run your business as a producer, we don't want to tell you you have to at any point. Like, you have to let all other participants in, because like that might work for a very young company, but for like some of the other companies that are planning on selling every single one of their tickets, then they might not want to have that same sort of strategy. So like we, on all these tunnels, we encourage you to like discount participants, create the community, have people come in, and a lot of people did that, which is awesome. But some don't, and that's their choice. That's their business decision, right? And like the way we're set up is to respect that decision. So it's a different situation. Like San Diego can do that in a sense because they have this monolithic model, as opposed to us, which has a decentralized
And
model.
it was very interesting down there too, because being down there, not knowing anyone really,
Right.
They don't have the strong community like we do here, so it was a little bit of a shock. But so I mean, the first day we were like, well, we don't know if anyone's gonna show up to our show with 100 seats, and then
Right.
it was sold the hell out.
That's awesome.
It was crazy, and it wasn't participants, very few participants. It was all outside community. So like I'm not quite exactly sure how they're tapping in so much into that, but I mean the title alone, 25 plays per hour, the title alone was selling it.
That's awesome.
Which was awesome. It was
Yeah.
so awesome. But then same thing though with just going back to the small areas of the venues. Friends like these had to be an off venue because of a mix up with the time frame, blah blah blah. But it wasn't that far away. It was like 4 miles away. It was very, very close with tons of parking, and they were dying from it. So
Right.
I mean, if you really, unless you were in these 3 particular venues on this one block, you didn't get in.
Right.
So it was tough.
Right. Yes, sir.
I did 11 shows. All shows were free for participants.
Mhm.
What I found was we were making more ticket sales because the participant was
We're
free
talking.
and was bringing friends.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And I
awesome.
didn't expect that. That one I didn't expect. All of a sudden they had 1 or 2 people with them that were paying full price.
So your strategy worked of making.
I didn't know.
people-
That was a strategy I fell on.
Well, I think it was a good strategy.
I just wanted bodies. We went into this, we were like, okay, we're not gonna make money, we're gonna take whatever we can, we just want butts in the seat.
Right.
So my butts in the seat plan was free to all participants.
Right.
What I found out was they would bring a friend or 2 and they were paying the full $12.
I think you should share that with others next year, and you should be
It
like,
was worth it.
this
It was a long
strategy
way.
absolutely
Plus,
worked for me.
Also too, it was always, hey, come see the show, it's free to all participants. Free to all participants, and then the word of mouth
Right.
on that part of it took off.
I think it's terrific.
So,
Awesome.
so heads up, yeah.
Matt, I think was next, and then you, sir. So Matt, then you.
Kind of in connection with that, something that we've been trying various stages at the asylum, we've seen the strength of participants seeing each other's shows, which in the early years was sometimes all the audience who had, is from the get-go getting people to say, yes, we're going to give tickets free to our participants, or $5 off, or free for asylum and for others. The real key was getting that information out of who was doing that into a public place. So we did a little bit this year, but next year we're using forums, trying to capture that information, port it to a website that we advertise. Like, here are all the discounts
Right.
that people are willing to offer for their shows at the asylum. And you can see it even bigger for the whole Fringe. These are the ones who are giving free for participants. These are the ones so that people know, because right now it's kind of shot out by Twitter, or people tell it at the tent, but if instead people are saying, hey, there's the Fringe discount page,
Right.
That's a good idea.
and it will let everybody know.
Free to participate.
It's about, because that is so key, especially the early stages, because that's where buzz comes, that's the whole thing.
Well, that's something we could add on the Fringe site
That'd
too,
be
is
great.
a listing of
Like
all
early
these
on,
things.
right, and put the testimonies like from Tom, like free works.
Right.
Here's how, and also I think just the disclaimer is free if seats available. So show up.
We call them
have
vouchers.
seats.
Yeah.
But you don't want people necessarily, people may go, oh, I don't want to just give them off the bat unless people are comfortable with that. I think it's more what we try to do at the asylum was, if there are seats, when you show up, if there are seats available, participants get them for free.
Right.
And again, to your point, each producer will come up with their own kind of rule with that, but state it. and then everybody knows and get the message out.
Yeah, we call those vouchers, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's, I think it's the technical concert term for them at least.
Oh,
It's
that's
like you have a
interesting.
voucher for the show, meaning it's like we don't guarantee you seating, but if you show up and there's still space,
That's
we'll let
great.
you in.
So you could put something in the system.
That's
So you get kind of a tag that they exist,
Yes.
but it's not saying you've lost a seat because of
That
these
would be
people.
Right, right,
That's
right, right.
awesome. That's very cool.
Let me think about that actually. There might be some ideas there. Now, you and
Yeah.
then Monica.
At the same time, those 4 letters PWIC mean a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Right.
those people get to go to the Fringe site,
Yeah.
they get to reserve a seat,
Mm-hmm.
so we know they're in the audience.
Yeah.
And we know that, yes, they are gonna pay, and they could pay $1, they could pay $3. There's a mutual respect that goes along
Yep.
with paying a little. Pay
Yeah.
what you can.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true. It's a
You know,
cool thing.
it's
It
just
is
a
cool
nice thing to support other people with a few bucks.
Yeah.
And that's actually what we encourage participants to do.
Oh,
is,
absolutely.
Yeah,
I
make
love
it pay what you
that.
can.
So that could be another one that you let people know. We are pay what you can.
Absolutely.
We are free.
Yeah.
We are this.
But it'd be great to be able to click onto a page on the website and see all of the pay what you want or all of the
Pay what you can, yeah.
participant special.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. And for the venues, each.
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
And getting back to the point about, raising audiences and getting the word out, about a week or two before Fringe began, there was a thing at Cal State LA called Stage Day LA. And there were a lot of theater companies and a lot of kids, a lot of theater kids, studying at Cal State LA, just young people looking to see what's happening in the world. And I saw it in the LA Weekly little box, may not have even been there. I went down into the box of cards and got a shitload of audience people just from talking to all the people at tables.
That's great.
I think it would behoove Fringe to have a table there representing the entire festival.
How many participants were there in Stage Day LA this year?
I don't know, 40,
Victoria Lynn.
40?
50, at various tables.
Yeah.
Were you
Oh, I
there
meant
as well?
people actually at the event. There
Oh,
were
at the event?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. When I was there, I
Hundreds?
saw about
Probably a
150
a
people.
couple hundreds, okay.
Yeah, and they had workshops and stuff too, so.
But I mean, people are browsing in and out, so
Yeah.
having a table.
I mean,
there-
LA
That's
Opera's
true.
there. It's like
And the table
everybody's
costs
there.
like $15 or something.
We were invited this year, but we were to LA Stage Alliance organizes it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we were invited like very, I think it was this year, very like just a couple of days to go, so we didn't
Yeah,
have a
they-
chance
they
to.
were really
Yeah.
getting started.
So we were like we don't like to do things half-assed, so we
Yeah.
said like next year.
Yeah,
I think it would
definitely
be
a good idea.
it would be good if somehow participants could drop off their flyers at some central spot, and we could put together a table with the participants'
That'd be
flyers.
cool.
I think that would be cool, because like we'll have the guides too, but it's always great if we could say finding a central space. But it's a problem that can be solved. It's something along those lines. I know Monica, you had your hand up.
Well, it was, this is speaking towards, the notifications for
Yep.
the page you're talking about. It's actually Max's idea, because he loves your Fringe app.
Yeah.
And what he ran into is, he would get out of the show and then be waiting for me, so want to go see something else. So he's trying to find what
Right.
to go see, and he said, wouldn't it be great if what you could do is if you catch yourself at 8:15 going, what can I go see? And I know you can look up what show's next.
Yeah.
But for producers to able to shoot out, our show's starting in 10 minutes and they're looking for audience, so they could say, pay what you can, starting right
Right.
now. So it's like it's an
Like a
alert.
Twitter feed
Maybe
almost.
maybe-
Yeah,
like a rush
feed.
line.
Yeah, but an
Yeah.
alert that
Yeah.
says, we're giving, we're doing
Right now.
$5 seats, we're doing pay what you can.
Yeah.
Right now, come down to the asylum or, whatever.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We're always looking for ideas like how to make, for example, like one thing I wanted to have in the series that didn't happen was to make the homepage more dynamic, so that there would be more like Facebook than like a static page,
Yeah.
something like a dashboardy type of solution, and then have that similar dashboard on the app where if you are a participant, then you can contribute to the feed, so you can make announcements like
Yeah.
that. I think that next up there was somebody back here. Okay, yes.
Yeah, coming from all these comments, and this was a suggestion by our stage manager based on her experience at the Edmonton Fringe.
Great
And
festival.
and it would be a little more work, but what she suggested, a great idea, is every day of the Fringe have a big thing like a poster which says "Today at the Fringe," which is posted at Fringe Central and at every venue, which just says, 2 o'clock, this show at this theater, this time, because as she put it, there were a couple of times when she went to Fringe Central and kind of jazz and sort of go, gee, I don't feel like going home yet, I wonder what else is playing.
Right.
But there's no way to easily find that, whereas if there's a listing of, this is what's playing today at this time, you can look at it and go, oh, that's starting in 15 minutes and it's only down the block. We can go to that. Because the other thing, and the reason for this is that, and I'm going to make another suggestion, which is that on each of the project pages, when you set them up, there be a thing saying it's playing at this theater and this address. Because 2 friends of mine came and stupidly each thought that they had written down the name and address of the theater.
Right.
So they got into the area and realized they didn't know what theater our show was at. They went to Fringe Central, nobody had an idea where it was. They went to our project page, but the project page doesn't say what theater it plays on. It's only when you go to buy a ticket that it says what theater. They didn't know that. They went to a couple of other theaters, nobody knew what it was. But if there was just like a playbill for each day saying, this is what's playing,
right?
Because they knew the title of the thing, they could go, oh, it's at that theater.
There's, so one year, so on the project page, you go to the performances tab. You don't need to buy tickets, you can go to like the performances tab and it should be there. I think it's called the tickets tab actually. So you have to buy the tickets tab.
When you go to buy tickets,
right,
it says it, but it's nowhere else on the project page.
The reason it's that way, because at least when we first started, a lot of projects wouldn't have just one venue. They'd have multiple venues. So we would need to list the performance, so if a venue is attached to performance, not to project. So it's venue attached to performance attached to project. Of course, right now it's like an 80-20 thing. Like 80% of them have one, or probably more now have a single venue. But that's the reason why it's not like playing at this venue, right? Because for a couple of years we actually had the screens.
That was cool.
Which is actually there's a page on the website that you can go to that's not advertised. That is like a full page, scrolling listing of here's what's coming up sort of thing.
Also at the back of the guide, there's
at the back of the guide,
daily slash hour
thing. We haven't done it the past couple of years. The actual screen things. The board idea. We call it the big board idea. Just to let you know, it's such a common thing we talk about every year. We have a name for it. It's the big board idea. It is because, I know Orlando does this, but Orlando has much fewer shows than we do. That would be a pretty big board. Not so much on a Monday or Tuesday, because the complex doesn't have shows on Monday or Tuesday.
I get booked so many shows on Monday.
Well, it doesn't matter now.
We complained because our central space was directly across from the complex this year, and Mondays or Tuesdays are like crickets. It would take a lot of work. It would be like a full-time job of someone always up there changing things up on the board, which is why we made it digital, right? So somehow making that possible, like a projection this next year or something like that, like at Fringe Central. The Instagram thing, was a thing, but having another projection that projects sort of the digital board. A bat signal.
If you would put up HFF14, the Twitter one up there, it would do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because I was counting down my ticket sales through that, and I would 20 seats left at 7 o'clock show, free for participants. And I did it for 3 hours every morning for 3 weeks.
Right.
And then all the way up to the curtain on how many seats were left.
That's great.
So
That's great.
It could kind of work. It didn't help. It didn't help the count.
So maybe that's a obviously. So let me projection of show display. Jen.
One thing in San Diego that was very helpful along these lines, there were 3 or 4 venues in Spreckles Theater, which is huge, and then has a couple other little spaces. It was very hard to find the entrances to each one because they were in these weird back alleys and stuff. But they would every day they had sandwich board chalkboards outside each door, and so the venue was responsible for writing down the time and the name of the show of every day. So I mean, it it was probably a little time consuming for those individual venues,
Yep.
but you would just do it like in the morning one day, put it outside. And like what Aaron and Greg and I were thinking about was this venue, was Asylum. Because so often, I mean, if you have a show in the Elephant, you have to have someone standing out there the entire show telling people, no, this isn't where the show is. You need to go around the building and whatever.
Right.
So that would be very helpful, I think, even beyond Fringe Central, is that if it was like here and the complex and places where there are a lot of venues, just having individual boards that could be.
I know.
Yeah,
Monica
and you guys
did.
did. That was great too. But yeah, like sandwich boards that you can just change every day. That's kind of nice too. Even if it's handwritten and a little bit ghetto, it totally works.
Done on the venue level would be much easier.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes. And then you. I swear. Boom, boom, and boom. Keep me honest. Boom, boom, because you had yours up first. Boom. Okay. Yes. Go ahead.
Here?
No, you. Yes.
Okay.
Shoot.
Help me, Matt,
Yeah.
too. Is it not that when we go to look at tickets for the Asylum, it just says Theater Asylum?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and this is actually something that's in relation to all these.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We're working on that.
Okay,
Yeah,
'cause
that's,
that,
The individual space.
Yeah.
I would just suggest, now, you know us, because we just stand out in the front and go, fantastic's
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
This is where you're going, here, good, here.
Yeah.
You know, we would do that, and, people, but I actually had several person, they'd come out, like, when they would look at me, and this is after we've said ours, they go, we're in the wrong theater. Do you wanna see our show anyway? You already sat down. Anyway, but they would come out, so it did happen 2 or 3 times, not too many times. And I think we actually ended up getting most of our people who needed to come. But partly our older patrons really had a lot of issue with the
I think
Theater Asylum online.
It's definitely a twofold thing,
Yeah.
I mean, I think we could publish the information in a clearer way, but even if it says Lillian Theater, I walk up to here, I know where it is, but if it's the first time, I have no idea which theater is the Lillian. And the thing is, when there's 200 people everywhere, it's even more confusing because it's just like what Yes.
Yeah, no, I completely agree because I was lost. I was 20 minutes late to Stan Zimmerman's play, and I'm like running from here, running to there. Nobody knew, oh, it's over there. No, there's I can't get in. There's a fence, so there needs to be something.
Right.
There's too many.
You know what though? If people are doing a play in this complex, they should just provide a map once you buy a ticket with where the play is. That should be an automatic send out with the purchase of the ticket, so they don't have their audiences confused.
What?
People just walk up though.
I think did each of these spaces have their own address?
Yes.
Each of these spaces have their own address?
Yeah, that's been, part of this, we've talked about it, and it sounds like you've got a workaround for this year. But ever since we stopped doing centralized box office, and I know Complex has stopped too, we've had increased difficulty because there is one address given for everything. So we have tried various things over the last 2 years to remedy it. We didn't do the names like Monica did, but we had every group with posters to put it up. And Monica, I don't know if you had it too, but even when you do the signs, people are confused. Because there are, to Dave's point, there are 200 people milling. We try to get each box office person, we had a list at every box office with every show and what venue it's in, and signs going around labeling them so people could say follow the signs. So we try to put it in each box office hands to be able to, first of all, identify themselves, bring a poster, be loud, identify yourself. Most of the box offices were outside. Even the Elephant, it behooved you, like Jen brought up, to be outside. You have the sandwich boards which are provided, but you've got to bring the posters. And then educate everyone, here's the guide, somebody needs to show them how to use it. Because that's ultimately what everybody should be using. If the website/guide could be cleared up, so each named theater has a different address.
Right.
Instead of just the one, which it sounds like it's going towards, that would take a big chunk of it. There still needs to be a proactive for each space, unless you're centralized. And we did try, to Dan's point, we did the first few years, I did print out a schedule of every single show, every space, and it was tremendously useful, and it was something nice to put on. With suddenly 74 shows and over 1,000 performances, it became unwieldy. But a screen thing, Aaron and I have been talking about this just in general. But you had that awesome screen thing that showed like what's next or what's coming out.
That was the aforementioned
We have
screen
those
thing.
monitors out there, so
Right.
maybe working that, so those screens that we have on the Asylum right now will be kind of a flip book of shows coming up.
Yep.
Because even with science, even with the guide, even with people shouting out, people are confused because it's popular, and there's also people that aren't used to going to festivals. And the I had somebody come up and say, "Yeah, I'm here to see a show called Fringe." And I have a text and it said 8:30. Free that said Fringe, that's awesome. So it definitely is, Aaron, your name was just mentioned.
Do I get tickets?
What we get all the times is we get calls at the box office saying like, "Hi, we're here to see the show."
Yeah, oh, exactly.
Or even better,
I want tickets to Jimmy's show.
I want Jimmy's show.
Yeah.
I want Jimmy's show. Jimmy's in the show.
So I think it's also.
I bought tickets.
So I think it's also on the list. I think it's also on the list of the venues that we should be talking about it. And it's like standard operating procedure and stuff. It's not a funny matter.
Yeah, but I agree. I think like that would really I can't shoot myself. I think it would be really great if there were some sort of semi-universal thing that all the venues did as far as so that any time you went to a new venue had been before, there was a way to kind of already know basically what you were doing. Because and if that were standardized in some way. I mean, I don't know how to do that off the top of my head, but I think it's a good thing.
Is there some code or something like that? Can we have some kind of like 4-digit code or something like that for each show? Like, I know the shows on the Fringe website already have a 4-digit code. Can those be changed so like the first 2 numbers indicate the venue, second number indicates which space in the venue possibly, and
like the Dewey Decimal System.
Sort of something like
I mean,
that.
that seems
so just
pretty
by looking at
intense
the
to
number,
me, but
it might be a little hairy at first, but like but by looking at the number of the show, okay, number 11, okay, I know that's gonna be it.
I mean, I think something like a wizard hat for the box office person, or just like a uniform sign maybe that like the venue number signs.
Yeah.
We have like a uniform sign that shows. Look for the fluorescent orange thing, and that's where the box office is, or whatever.
Yeah, we just did an information.
Sorry.
Yeah, that was cool.
Right.
Counter, and with guides
Right.
available, and had a lovely 17-year-old volunteer that worked her butt off, standing there and directing people to the theaters.
Is this
And,
Jim's?
and also at the same time educating them on how to use their guide.
Right.
So she would say, "This is what you do. You go to the
Yeah,
back.
it
It's
was really
this
good.
day. This is where it is. You're at
That's
this
good.
theater. It's right here." And I really found that was the solution I'm going with.
We need to breed an army of super intelligent gnomes that are just really good at doing box office.
can do that.
Does anybody need to feed a parking meter?
We
So
need high
you're
school
next.
students.
So the one thing that we're doing next year, and
Yeah.
I think Quinn alluded to this, is that so currently we have the concept of a venue, and a venue has spaces, right?
Yeah.
So Complex is a venue and it has 5 spaces. Next year, the way it will most likely be organized is that it's just one thing. So the Ruby is its own thing. The Asylum is its own thing. The Lab is its own thing. And they have their own pages and uniqueness on every bit of page. So as a result, you can say, oh, I'm going to the Asylum, it's this address, it's this number, so it will have its own number by it. So like, as you say, it's just like registrations. No matter how much you do, there's still going to be some people who are confused.
And to Dan, sorry to jump, Monica, your hands up, but to Dan's point too, if that can come in on the web page sooner, because you do sometimes have to click in levels, and I do think people are using the site for that. I know I did.
Create the venue. It's on you. Go ahead and create the venue. Like
oh no, but I'm talking about like right now the venue shows up on the ticket, but there's a certain level of the project page, and I know you explained why it was because of multiple projects.
Right.
But I do think that that's some of the disconnect with people knowing which space it is.
Like, I have a really good idea on that. So Ben, and the reason we have done that is exactly what Ben said, is that if your show's at multiple different spaces, blah, 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 blah,
yeah,
you can't say one thing. But what you could say is next performance.
The next performance, right.
You know, and then for 95% of the shows, that would always be the same thing.
Yeah.
But given that people will be going to their project page to kind of find out where the show is, well,
Sure.
probably going to it, and it's probably the next one.
Sure.
Or maybe add a little tag saying where it's playing.
Right.
And that way, if it's multiple things,
it splits
Right.
it up, right?
Or there's a
technical
flag that
solutions.
says there's multiple places.
There's technical solutions. Yes.
I have a comment and then a question.
Yes.
Comment is you can have a diagram on the web page. Like
Yeah.
you go in this entrance, that way they see it, bam, from the get-go. My question is, what types of relationships do you have with like the network casting directors and people of that extent, and higher level producers? I've seen shows here and I volunteered that are highly professional, but then there's the reputation out there that, oh, Fringe is like amateur and anyone could get into it, and that's not true. So I was just wondering how you market it to the people that are looking for talent, since there is so much talent here. And he was just saying that he was, the Geffen Playhouse, he was the only one that approached them, like, come to the Fringe. So do you
We could do better.
Yeah.
Like, we could do better, like, going to the various outreaching to the other, like, big talent agencies and whatnot to get them to come here.
But at the same time, those folks are typically so like personal about where they get their their leads. So yeah, it's like, yeah, we could email APA several times throughout the year and say, hey, the Fringe is coming up. But in terms of actually getting them out, it's almost always a personal outreach thing. And so that's why we really try to stress with the producers of the shows that, yes, those people are out there, but it's really going to, just like the press, it's going to require an interface between an individual producer and that individual agent or agency or whatever, most likely. Because they don't typically respond terribly well to just, hey, we're doing this thing, you should come check it out, because there'll be a lot of talented people. You know what I mean? So it's,
I agree, but as long as there's some sort of polished professional, like, yes, it's here, and then it can be on the individual basis. Because it was sad to hear this producer saying, yeah, like, we wouldn't want to do that. That's amateur. You belong here in a good theater. And no, because I mean,
yeah,
I
got more positive.
Yeah, I mean, I did mine, and I got more positive. I have people
it's
from,
well respected.
Yeah,
Another 5 years they'll be
Oxygen,
eating their words.
HBO came to my show.
Yeah,
I have people from Oxygen and HBO came to my show.
That's great.
I got an offer, so.
That's great. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's under the good stuff.
I think
you have to reach out.
I think every Fringe battles with that reputation. Like even Fringe NYC, which is different than every other Fringe in the country because it is curated, right? And they actually posted, it just shows they have good attitude about themselves. They posted on their Facebook 2 days ago a Time Out article about how to deal with crappy shows at the Fringe. It is like, and actually where they talked about that reputation, that Fringe shows tend to be lower budget. But you can say in any strata, right? I mean, if you're doing off-Broadway shows, those damn off-Broadway shows. And if you're doing Broadway shows, those amateurs and off-Broadway.
Moose murders.
Right. I think in any strata, like there's always that sort of snobbiness that you can't do much about, other than getting them involved and showing them good stuff. Of course you're going to see shit at the Fringe. Like, it happens. Because it's true, anybody can join the Fringe. That is a true statement. Anybody can join the Fringe.
It's part of our mission.
That's part of our mission, is to lower that barrier. So as a result, you're going to have extremely polished shows, like everyone's show in this room and watching this right now. And then you're gonna have not so terrific shows that because of a lack of preparation and professionalism. And everyone knows Ezra. He was on a mission this year. He was on a good mission. He wore around his shirt, what Fringe is not, and it's true. Like I've always said, Fringe is not an aesthetic. Fringe is not description of the quality of something. Fringe isn't even a location. Fringe is a methodology. Fringe is a sense of an openness in community and a way for mass open participation. That's what Fringe is, to me at least. It's a methodology, not an aesthetic. So when people say that's such a Fringe show, it means very little to me. It means nothing what you just said. You just said nothing in a sentence. It's amazing. Because as I said, Fringe is how a festival is organized. It says nothing to the quality of the shows within the festival itself. Yes, Tom.
Well,
and then, I'm sorry, I promised you first. Go, and then Tom.
My manager came several nights, they brought a lot of professionals.
Yeah.
And what would always seal the deal, one, we had it at the complex, they knew of the complex, but I walked into Fringe Central later, we talked business in Fringe Central.
That's terrific.
And they loved it. And my manager in the end said, this was the best thing you could have done for your career right now.
And I agree with you. Yes, I'm sorry.
So I guess it's a little bit off topic, but I
Sure.
can follow up. Third time Fringe or first time hauler, so maybe you guys have spoken about this. The part that I found most murky is the whole award and getting, I guess, the right people.
It's already starting. Oh, the awards questions.
Oh my God. It's 3 years coming. How about that? So I guess just some, clarity
Sure.
and guidance and.
Come to the second town hall, the third town hall next year. I think I pushed it off, but to give you the short version, there's two sets of awards. There's the community awards and then there's the sponsored awards. The community awards are voted upon by the community as defined by the number of shows you saw, the reviews you put on the website. Were you in a show? Did you host a show at a venue? And that itself creates a community of about 800 people that are on the Fringe. They all get ballots where they can vote online for the best of every category, the best world premiere, the best international, the top of the Fringe, and the best new play, the best new work, world premiere. That's I already said that. Okay. And then those are tallied up into the winners of each category. Of course, nobody sees every show, so it's an imperfect system. So as a result, what it is, it's basically we don't call it we call it a community award because it's like, A, did you attract them into the theater to see it? B, once you got them into the theater, did they like it? And that's really the question that it answers. And additionally to that, there is a sponsored awards, that if you are an organization that's established, you can submit to actually present an award at the Fringe, and they each have their own curatorial guidelines. So they say, we're gonna see 15 shows, and we're gonna base them around all shows that are new musicals, and then our very opinionated staff that has nothing to do with the Fringe Festival is going to choose the winner. So you have the opportunity to win sponsored awards and you have the opportunity to win community awards. And the so-called Top of the Fringe Award, which was won by women this year, was basically everyone, all women won it. Was voted upon by the entire community as their overall favorite. And that's how the awards work. Yeah, so that's how it works. Hope that's clear. Yeah, yes.
Yeah, David with the gallery, we had an awesome time here, so really thankful.
Thank you. It was great having you.
And we had to learn a lot in a very short amount of time.
I like how you invited me to your table at Fringe Central where you had a cast around and said, everyone has a question for you. And I'm like, okay.
Well, I thought it was very good of you to sit down with us.
No, we were happy to.
Questions.
I kid, I had some.
So, everything took longer than we thought to learn how to do.
Yep.
Let's see. The casting website, is that Express Casting or whatever it's called? It took us almost 3 hours to learn how to work their site and about 10 phone calls to them. I know it's not. These are some of the outlying areas that are beyond the Fringe purview, but just the resources we tried to connect with needed more time. I'm wondering if you might want to start Fringe University and have it in January.
I mean, fundamentally, our town hall workshop program is Fringe University. Speaking of casting, you have these ideas, right, and you never know if they're going to be any good. But like, a lot of us come from DC, where they have this thing called leagues. I think New York has something similar, where you go to leagues and there's an equity audition and there's a non-equity audition. It's a Cal call. And you go and all these producers from various theaters come and you do one big audition and it's probably, as an actor, the most terrifying thing you do all year. You do one big audition for all of the theater companies in the region, and a lot of their casting callbacks comes out of that for the entire season.
Yeah.
So we thought about doing something like that for the Fringe as a whole, to have a Fringe cattle call audition, basically provide a space, advertise for it for producers that are looking to cast their show and they want to see talent. I have absolutely no idea what the need from producing companies are and what the interest from actors are. Like, it would suck if 150 actors showed up and it was just, you know, Quinn in the audience. It'd be interesting to know if that would be a useful resource if we would get a real participation on that.
I think like anything, it would probably start out small and then grow
Yeah.
with interest. But it's the same they do in Texas, South by Southwest.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I got my first professional job at one of those. So I
Yeah.
think they're very valuable, and it would be nice to have something like that. It would help actors with auditioning, it would help producers cast.
Like it's
a
like,
great idea.
the way I see a lot of Fringe shows work is that you cast from your social network or professional network, like
Yeah.
immediately.
Or their company.
Or your company. I don't know if a lot of Fringe shows do it. Did you do? Who did actually auditions for their show? That's 2, 3. Tom, no auditions. 4. You actually held auditions for your show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, would you find it a valuable thing to come to a Fringe cattle call audition? Would you do it? Would you go? You would?
I would go to one.
Okay.
That's so great for actors too, just because if
Yeah.
you don't use them in that
Yeah,
Fringe
it's
show,
true.
you'll use
Yeah.
them maybe another time.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of headshots to hand out.
That's
Yeah.
a good general auditions.
And in the Bay Area, we have the.
I was just gonna say, it's just like
theater
the,
general
that's one of the
audition.
cool things about the Bay.
Yeah.
Every company, it wouldn't be every company like that, but all the Fringe companies would be
Yeah.
great exposure.
I think I had that idea in 2009. And I don't think I ever did anything about it.
But
But
I think it's
We've
extra
talked
work
about it
for
a couple
you.
times.
Yeah.
Extra work.
Yeah.
It is, I mean, it's extra work, but it's something.
it's not
that's-
much work.
Right, it's a benefit to the community.
It's Xerox.
It's a community stuff. And it's
A
Well,
lot of
it's,
Xerox.
it's also advertising it to
Yeah.
for actors wherever and that.
Yeah.
Because you put on
It's
big
a little
sheets
resource.
and
Yeah.
everybody goes out to it. More people know about Fringe now, obviously, but to come
And
and
it-
see it and.
It actually helps the Fringe in getting the word out
To
earlier.
actors.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
having actors know, oh, this is Fringe, and
Yeah.
people start talking about it. So it's definitely
Or maybe
something
we'll
to
do a
talk
show.
about.
I didn't get this cast. Maybe we'll do this
Right.
play. Yeah.
Right. Okay, I see. Okay, it is currently 3:47. Raise your hand if you have a question. We'll do this traditional town hall rule. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're gonna start back. We're gonna come forward. And those are the last questions of the day. Okay, great. Yes. Or comments.
Well, comments are different.
Did you have a question?
Escaping.
For everyone.
Yes.
From doing Fringe since the beginning, we've seen different ways of reviewing on the website. This year was different, and I know why. So I know the pros and cons.
Yes.
And I'm wondering what people thought about it, because I at first was like, sweet, there's no anonymous reviews, so that means we're not getting jerk faces in there being jerks about it. Just like, I don't like you, I haven't seen your show, but I'm gonna say it sucked because I'm a jerk.
Yep.
Hate those people.
Yep.
But we also, I mean, as a company, Theater Unleashed was very much like, ugh, because everything was amazing, and like.
Really?
And so when you are, I mean, like, we use Fringe for a little bit of a scouting round, because we definitely produce things that we found at Fringe and produce them later. So, you know, a lot of times Greg and I will see 50 shows. It's very difficult to do that when you're like, let's see what's good. Everything's good. And then you go and you're like, or not.
Which is funny because I believe when I announced at a town hall that we're taking away anonymous reviews, you and your husband both almost stood up to applaud.
Like,
yes, I remember.
No. So I mean, but I think like we had to just experience it and see what the pros and cons are.
Right.
So I'm interested to hear what other people thought and what the Fringe staff thought, and if it's even a concern.
I gave that whole speech every year about honesty and reviews.
Don't be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk, but also don't be a yutz. Like also like give if you really didn't like it, say it. But a lot of people we know that are core Fringe people say, I don't post bad reviews. I don't post bad reviews. I don't post even mildly constructive reviews. I only post positive reviews.
Because I think people are continuously afraid.
We live in
that
Los
It's gonna be like, it's gonna be nasty, or they're your friends then you're like, "Aw."
It's so funny. New York has the opposite problem. That all the reviews are nasty. Okay, well, I think that we've tried 150 different methodologies for reviews, right? Like we removed ratings this year. We allowed you to tag with an attempt to get more information extract reviews. I can say almost certainly anonymous reviews are coming back because it's just absurd.
What about anonymous but certified?
Well, yeah, it would still be certified. It would be anonymous and certified, so you would know they saw the show.
Yeah, and they reviewed it, but don't want to be named.
Well, I think maybe that mix might be the so-called.
Who knows?
sweet spot.
I mean,
Who
who
knows?
knows? It's going to,
You're always get nasty.
So responding to Jen's question.
Yeah, because in fact that was what I wanted to talk about.
Awesome.
With the reviews. That and this was, I would say, our first year at the thing. And by the way, it was terrific. We sold out every show and we made money.
That's terrific. Maybe
But-
you should talk at the panel.
But the thing is that after our first press preview, there were 5 reviews, and one was from Backstage, and one was from Broadway World, and one said certified reviewer. And I sort of went, oh, wonder what outlet she's in. And I Googled her and couldn't find it. And that's when I found out that certified reviewer meant somebody who bought a ticket.
Right.
And what I would strongly suggest is make reviews and then audience comments. So that reviews are by actual certified reviewers who write for an outlet and get paid for it and have hopefully some credibility. And the others are just schmucks who walked in and bought a ticket and can say whatever they want.
Right.
Put them on a star system so they could just tell me how many stars instead of.
You know, whatever. Because as I say, most of it is people saying, oh, and his play was just the most fabulous thing.
Right.
But we got a couple of jerk reviews who wanted to, because we had 5 short plays, and they would say their friend's play was the only reason to go see, and you just find yourself going, well, fine, that's your audience comment, and you're, but don't call it a review.
Right. Well, what we do is we divide it. We do divide it on the actual page and trying to bring up an actual page between press. Certified. So we have certified press.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I understand that. However, I think, and again, it's a semantic thing, that when you're dealing with the theater,
right,
reviewer in most people's minds indicates somebody who actually does this either for a living or for Whereas if it's audience comments, then you sort of go, oh, okay. That's that, and it can mean. Well,
it's interesting. That's definitely something to consider. It's an interesting thought. Yeah. Well, I think something like that.
As opposed to press review,
right?
Yeah. Makes sense. Which you may disagree with, but at least presumably this is something that a person does on a
regular basis. It's an interesting thought. Do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I just think if it's a Fringe festival, you have to let people comment.
Oh, sure.
And don't get me wrong.
He pays you money, he takes your chances.
He's not saying no comment. He's saying try to draw a line between press and patrons.
But someone with a blog who has the word theater in it, how are they different from somebody who rides in from somewhere to see a show?
Right.
Seriously.
Right.
I think it's part of the Fringe ethos that people get to comment and
I
review.
I totally understand where you're coming from.
Or if you keep it in the same thing, instead of calling it certified reviewer, call it certified ticket buyer.
Sure. Well, that makes sense. I mean, that makes sense too, and that would also be more descriptive of what it was. Like I have a thing where if you hovered over the word certified reviewer, it would tell you what it is. But maybe calling it certified ticket buyer would make sense. So coming at who are the original? We only have 7 minutes left. So who are the original people who had their hands up? Let's focus on them, and let's start with you.
Okay, so one question, but super quick thing, going back to the map thing. My phone died a lot, and I was always late. It would have been great just to have a map of, the Hudson is that way. I know it doesn't solve like the specific venue problem, but just should I run or do I need to move my car?
Right. Do you have? We had the guide, right, that had a map in it.
Yeah, but I needed like a you are here.
Oh, okay.
Because I have my phone.
Oh, you're saying on the app have a you are here.
Just a like map outside the venue of. I mean, for me it was like, should I run there or do I need to move my car? Or am I gonna be late?
So
like,
each venue have a map that would say you were here with the other.
Oh, okay. Each venue would have a map.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's something we could definitely try to get out to the venues too.
But then my question, and Monica and I talked about this, I didn't understand how the Encore Awards worked, that they were independent, and it was amazing
weekend after Fringe, we'll have some extra encore shows to sort of push that.
Well, I don't think a lot of the shows know that they're an encore show until the last weekend at the earliest, most of the time.
Yeah.
But that it would be like a Friday at 7 at the Asylum, there's gonna be an encore show, even, and I don't know if that's possible, but
Right.
just so that, you know, the last weekend before Fringe, you say, those theaters that can will tell you that there's going to be encores the next weekend for those that don't.
Like an encore site on the site.
Yeah, or just like, you know, the weekend after, there's gonna be at least 20 shows.
I would love more advertisement on the Fringe site telling about it. And every year, I think we make more headway. I think this year, you guys sent out a wonderful email, maybe a web page that just says all awards, not just encore, being clear a sponsor. I mean, I think with 300 people, I mean, this year we had probably the most people register than ever before. And people, that connection of afterwards is something that we're always working on. And this year too, we didn't have venues. We had venues that didn't join the Encore Awards till the day after.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of people know about it, and this also goes to the producers and people interested in future things and what. They're learning about it. I mean, I don't mind necessarily that not everybody is coming here for different shows yet. And the venues aren't necessarily scooping in, but I know for the importance of the Fringe, they need to. So every year, I think more groups are going to be coming in, and that education process, people coming back, will help grow it. But I definitely know, last year too, there was one thing, Ben and I talked about this, there was an extension email blast that went out every week. And I think in the thick of it all, that didn't happen necessarily like that. But as Ben said, all of that is about us getting that stuff out early. And this year we're earlier now, like we have grown to do that. And that Ben also, that the Fringe can present an equal playing field. So even somebody's not doing an encore award, but is extending, is getting just as much publicity and play. So I think as the encores are growing, as more people do it, as more producers and bigger houses become aware, all of these things that we're doing, and then just the interest in knowing of it will help grow. But it is something we're working on.
You got this terrific website.
Every year it grows. And the website's all cool, and that's, we just got official ones, so step by step.
There's two more coming back to front. You are next, and you, and then we're done.
Yeah, I'm wondering, you know, when our son started 6th grade, they teamed us up with somebody who had parents in the 8th grade, and we had questions. I'm wondering if the first year producers could be teamed up with that person.
Like a mentor.
So we can call them up when we have questions, not like
that's a cool answer.
Take me to a ball game.
Take me to a ball.
Listen, I lucked out. Monica Martin was mine.
And actually,
She really was.
I've had people in Theater Unleashed, I know, Greg, myself, Aaron, there's several of us who've actually said, like, we'd love to do that.
Yeah.
So, like, I think if there was a way to connect, like, veterans with new
Only if we could call it the Veterans and Virgins program.
we love to help new producers. So.
We do have the workshop where it is veteran producers panel discussion. So
well, and I think also like if you reached out to some of the veterans, I would think, you know, 80 to 90% of them would be really willing to help you out.
We did it.
I mean,
Most of us did it
Yeah.
already. I mean,
But if you have an official thing, like I'm willing to help people, contact me.
Sure.
We somehow, we can integrate that into the workshop programs.
And we found with our artwork that we were slow to get it done because we were waiting on getting dates. Really better to do the artwork and then put in some mock dates and make sure you get the right ones printed. And then, let's see. Yeah, and also the part about Fringe being a writing and acting and directing medium, it turns out that our technical stuff was more important than we thought, and also making it look really great, like cool stuff on stage, was more important than we thought. Thanks.
Yeah, awesome. Yes.
Okay, before you close shop, could you just explain briefly to those of us who haven't done it and want to be producers, do you have to, if you're going to hire equity actors, do you have to apply equity for the 99-seat theater plan? The rehearsal spaces, where do you do that? Like, how many of those do you get? You're talking about rent besides the application fee, so what rent for the shows or for rehearsal?
A lot of questions. For equity, our stock answer is talk to equity, because like we don't like we're not lawyers and we're also not equity representatives. Most of the cases, talk to equity. I would say I don't even want to comment on anything equity based. We have a lot of equity actors who are participating. A lot of other producers like after you can talk to Tom over here about his experience working with equity actors. To talk to anybody up here that has worked with equity actors, I'm sure they'll be able to tell you. We famously don't comment on that. But they know who we are. We've worked with them like they know us by name.
They're geared for it.
And they're geared for it. And they're geared for it. If you go and say Hollywood Fringe Festival, they'll know what you're talking about.
It's easier than you think.
Yeah. What was the second one of our venues?
Yeah, rehearsal space, money, rent.
All of like you book your own venue. So that can be anywhere between free and X amount per show or per run. Every venue has a different pricing plan, so you can shop around and figure out like what venue pricing plan works for you. Rehearsal spaces, like a lot of people rehearse in living rooms, in gymnasiums, in any place available to them. A complex has rehearsal spaces that they can book for you. For example, other facilities have rehearsal spaces. Churches are good rehearsal spaces.
They also have fringe prices. That's something that I couldn't do what I did, 11 shows in Hollywood, for the price I did it at if it wasn't for fringe prices.
Right. And
that's it. And they're all geared for it.
And that's the thing. That's the thing that Fringe brings is that whereas to do a production traditionally in Hollywood, it would cost you tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Fringe tries to give you a framework that whereas you can do it for significantly cheaper, and then hopefully gain some traction and continue in a more expensive run. And that's really what the mission of the whole thing is. And that's why it's not just us; it's Fringes in every city. That's really what they have to offer. Is that it's lowering the bar to entry for artists and for patrons, because tickets are usually inexpensive and short, which we say are the two. At least some of them are short. Not all of them are short, but they're generally inexpensive. So time and money are the two big things people are. So providing that to the patrons as well as participants.
They supply lighting people and all that too?
Who, venues? Depends on the venue. Everything when it comes to, you'll let me say that a lot next year, depends on your venue.
They set it up very nicely and easily. The people are very generous to meet them, and most of them offer at least like 2 rehearsals in the space, or whatever.
Right, and tech and these sort of things. Talk to individual venues. There's at least 3 here. Yeah, Svengali, Quinn, Monica. Any other venues here? I don't think so. No. So there are 3 big venues right here that you can talk to right now that participate every year. All right,
and
guys.
You can talk to them at 3 clubs.
And you may talk to them at 3 clubs. Is going on. However, I need to take my baby home for now.